I am Justin Campbell, 22 years old and one half of a fraternal twin pair. My sister Natalie and I walked the same halls, took similar classes, but lived entirely different college experiences. While her path was paved with parental support and financial security, mine was built on student loans and late-night shifts. She earned it. "You did not," my parents told me without hesitation when I questioned why they funded her education but not mine. Now, as graduation day arrived, I stood backstage, clutching my honors cords, about to show them exactly what I had earned. Before I continue my story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button, and subscribe to hear more stories about family revelations that changed everything. Growing up in suburban Grand Rapids, Michigan, our family appeared perfectly normal from the outside. Our two-story colonial, with its neatly trimmed lawn, sat in a respectable neighborhood where kids rode bikes until streetlights came on. My father, Richard, worked as a mechanical engineer at an automotive parts manufacturer, while my mother, Diana, served as an elementary school administrator. We never wanted for necessities, took modest family vacations to Florida every other year, and celebrated holidays with extended family. To neighbors and friends, we were the picture-perfect American family. But inside our home, subtle currents of favoritism ran deep. Even in my earliest memories around age 5 or 6, I recall the different reactions to our accomplishments. When Natalie learned to ride her bike without training wheels, our parents threw an impromptu neighborhood ice cream party. 2 weeks later, when I mastered the same skill, it warranted only a casual good job at dinner. These patterns continued throughout elementary school. Natalie's artwork earned prominent display on the refrigerator while mine was tucked into desk drawers. Her participation trophy from soccer received a special shelf in the living room, but my first-place science fair ribbon disappeared into a keepsake box in the attic. These differences were small enough that I could not articulate them clearly as a child, but consistent enough that I internalized a sense of being secondary. By middle school, academics became my refuge. Numbers and facts did not play favorites. My 6th-grade math teacher, Mrs. Benson, was the first adult who seemed genuinely impressed by my abilities. When I skipped ahead to advanced math, she told my parents they had a true prodigy on their hands. Dad nodded politely while Mom changed the subject to Natalie's lead role in the school play. "Justin is just naturally good at school," my mother would explain to relatives. "He does not really have to try." This dismissive praise undermined the hours I spent studying, implying my achievements required no effort and therefore deserved less recognition. Meanwhile, Natalie struggled with math and science but excelled socially. She made friends, effortlessly charmed adults with her outgoing personality, and participated in multiple extracurriculars. Our parents attended every one of her performances, soccer games, and debate competitions, often leaving me home alone with microwave dinners and homework. I discovered computer programming in 8th grade, teaching myself basic coding languages using library books and our family desktop during my solitary evenings. When I showed my father a simple game I had created, he glanced at it briefly and said, "That is nice, but do not spend too much time on computer games." He never recognized it as a potentially valuable skill, not entertainment. High school amplified these differences. Natalie became class president, dated the quarterback, and maintained decent B-average grades that our parents celebrated enthusiastically. I joined the robotics team, earned straight A's, and quietly accumulated academic accolades that rarely received mention at family dinners. The disparity became impossible to ignore on our 16th birthday. For Natalie, our parents organized a surprise party with 50 guests. At an upscale venue, hired a professional DJ, and presented her with a used but reliable Honda Civic with a giant red bow. My celebration consisted of dinner at my favorite burger restaurant with our immediate family, where the conversation centered mostly on Natalie's upcoming cheer competition. My gift was a new graphing calculator for AP Calculus. That night, alone in my room, I realized this pattern would never change unless I changed my expectations. I could continue craving validation that would never come, or I could focus on building my own path regardless of their recognition. I chose the latter, channeling my hurt into determination. During junior and senior years, I doubled down on academics and programming projects, stayed after school to use the computer lab, and built relationships with teachers who recognized my potential. I secured a part-time job at a local computer repair shop, saving every dollar. I was not working toward parental approval anymore. I was working toward independence. Mr. Rodriguez, my AP computer science teacher, became a crucial mentor. You have a gift, Justin, he told me after reviewing my final project, and the discipline to develop it. That combination will take you anywhere you want to go. His words became a mantra when family dynamics threatened to discourage me. Meanwhile, the pattern continued at home. When Natalie was accepted to 3 colleges, our parents took her on campus tours, discussed program options extensively, and celebrated each acceptance letter. When I received perfect SAT scores and acceptance letters from top computer science programs including Stanford and MIT, the news warranted only passing acknowledgement. Those schools are expensive, my father commented effectively, closing the conversation. By graduation, I had developed resilience born from years of emotional self-reliance. I had learned to find validation in my own accomplishments, rather than others' recognition. This hard-earned self-sufficiency would prove essential for the challenges ahead, though I did not yet realize how dramatically our paths would diverge in the next phase of our lives. Senior year of high school raced toward conclusion with the familiar frenzy of college applications, prom preparations, and graduation planning. I approached the process methodically, researching programs and requirements, writing and rewriting application essays during lunch periods, and submitting materials well ahead of deadlines. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Tanner, remarked that she had never seen a student so organized and self-directed. Natalie took a more casual approach, submitting applications to schools our parents suggested, often just days before deadlines with essays they helped her craft. Despite this, we both received acceptance letters from several universities, including Michigan State University, known for both its computer science program and business school. Michigan State would be perfect for both of you, Mom suggested one evening in March. You could room together or at least be on the same campus to support each other. The idea of attending college alongside Natalie felt comforting despite our differences. We had never been apart for more than a week of summer camp, and beneath the favoritism and friction, she was still my twin. After weighing options and scholarship offers, we both committed to Michigan State, me for computer science and Natalie for business administration. With decisions made, conversations at home shifted to logistics, housing applications, orientation schedules, and course registration. I assumed these discussions would eventually include financial planning, but my parents remained oddly vague whenever I raised the topic. "We will figure it all out," Dad would say, changing the subject. The truth emerged on a Sunday evening in late April. We had just finished dinner when my father cleared his throat. "We should discuss college finances," he announced. "Natalie, we have been saving for your education since you were born. We have enough to cover your full tuition, room and board, and a reasonable spending allowance each semester." Natalie beamed while I waited for the continuation. Surely the next sentence would address my college fund. Instead, my mother turned to me with an apologetic but firm expression. "Justin, we do not have savings for your education. We always expected you would get scholarships with your grades." The statement hit like a physical blow. "What do you mean? You saved for Natalie, but not for me. We are twins. We were born 4 minutes apart." My father shifted uncomfortably. "It was a decision we made years ago. Natalie has always been focused and responsible while you were more." He paused, searching for words. "Independent and smart enough to figure things out." "She earned our investment," my mother added, as if this clarified everything. "You did not show the same commitment to your future." The room spun around me. I have had straight A's since kindergarten. I taught myself programming. I have worked part-time since sophomore year. How is that not showing commitment? "That is all about computers and math that come easily to you," my father countered. "Natalie has worked hard at being well-rounded, building social connections and planning her future." The subtext became clear. My academic achievements were dismissed because they came from genuine interest and aptitude rather than struggle. Meanwhile, Natalie's social prowess and extracurriculars, areas where she naturally excelled, were considered worthy investments. "So I am being punished for being good at academics?" I asked incredulously. "Nobody is punishing you," my mother insisted. "We just made different provisions based on different needs. You will qualify for academic scholarships and financial aid. Natalie would not." The conversation deteriorated from there. Voices raised, tears fell mine, though I hated showing this vulnerability, and Natalie eventually left the room clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to challenge the status quo that benefited her. That night I researched financial aid options until dawn, methodically creating spreadsheets of potential scholarships, grants, and loan options. The reality was sobering. Even with my academic achievements, I would need substantial loans and a part-time job throughout college to afford Michigan State. The next morning I approached my parents with composed determination. "I will pay for my own education," I stated flatly. "I do not need your financial support, but I want to understand why you never told me this before. Why let me apply to colleges believing you would help, just like with Natalie?" "We assumed you knew my father," replied, genuinely surprised. "You have always been the independent one, figuring things out on your own." This circular logic, defining me as independent because they had given me no choice but to be independent, epitomized our relationship. They had created the very situation they now used to justify their decisions. The following weeks were tense. I met with financial aid counselors, applied for additional scholarships, and secured a larger student loan package than I had ever anticipated needing. I also arranged for on-campus employment, starting my first week of freshman year. Natalie attempted awkward reconciliation, offering to share her textbooks and meal plan when possible. While I appreciated the gesture, it highlighted the fundamental unfairness of our situation. She seemed genuinely unaware of her privileged position, having been conditioned her entire life to accept preferential treatment as normal. As graduation approached, an emotional distance grew between me and my parents. Our conversations became practical and surface level. They noticed the change, but attributed it to college anxiety rather than their betrayal of parental equity. "You will be fine, Justin," my mother assured me repeatedly. "You always land on your feet." What she failed to understand was that I would indeed be fine, not because their assessment of me was accurate, but despite their failure to support me equally. I would succeed, but our relationship had fundamentally changed. The facade of family unity had cracked, revealing the uncomfortable truth that had always existed beneath. In their eyes, Natalie and I had never been equally valued. Move-in day at Michigan State brought the expected chaos of thousands of freshmen and their families navigating crowded dormitories with overloaded carts and heightened emotions. Natalie settled into her spacious corner room in Williams Hall, one of the newest residence buildings on campus, with my parents spending hours arranging her decorations and organizing her closet. My move-in experience was markedly different. After briefly helping me carry boxes to my significantly smaller room in Wilson Hall, an older building with communal bathrooms, my parents made a quick exit, citing the need to take Natalie shopping for additional dorm supplies. I spent the afternoon alone, assembling my second-hand desk lamp and arranging my minimal belongings. "Your room is so sparse," Natalie commented when she visited later. "Do you want some of my extra stuff? Mom went overboard buying things." I declined politely. "I need to head to orientation for my campus job anyway," I explained, already feeling the weight of my dual identity as both student and employee. My position at the university computer lab paid minimum wage, but offered flexible hours around my class schedule. While other freshmen spent their first weeks exploring campus, attending social events, and adjusting to academic life, I balanced coursework with 20 hours of weekly employment. My routine quickly became a carefully orchestrated schedule of classes, work shifts, study sessions, and brief meals with little room for the traditional college experience. Natalie embraced campus life enthusiastically. She pledged Alpha Chi Omega sorority, attended football games and parties, and called home twice weekly, with updates that our parents eagerly received. Meanwhile, I called less frequently, finding little to discuss with parents who seemed more interested in Natalie's social calendar than my academic challenges. The first significant family tension arose at Thanksgiving break. Around the dinner table with extended family, my parents proudly detailed Natalie's sorority induction and social connections. When my aunt kindly asked about my semester, I mentioned my perfect grades and a professor who had invited me to assist with a research project, a rare opportunity for a freshman. "Justin is always buried in his computer," my father interjected before I could elaborate. "We hardly hear from him." Because I am working and studying, I responded, unable to hide my frustration. I do not have time for daily phone calls. You always make things harder than they need to be. My mother sighed, effectively dismissing the realities of my financial situation that they had created. Returning to campus after that uncomfortable weekend, I threw myself even more intensely into academics. If family recognition would never come, I would seek validation elsewhere. Professor Bennett noticed my dedication during his Introduction to Artificial Intelligence course and invited me to his office hours. "You have unusual insight for a freshman," he observed, reviewing my latest assignment. "Have you considered focusing on AI research?" His genuine interest in my abilities and potential felt almost foreign after years of parental indifference. Over the following weeks, Professor Bennett became the mentor I had always craved, offering guidance, challenging my thinking, and treating my aptitude as something to nurture rather than dismiss. In the computer lab, I met Derek Wilson, another working student balancing academics with financial necessity. We recognized in each other the same determined exhaustion and formed a friendship based on mutual respect and shared circumstances. "Trust me, you are not alone," Derek assured me during a late-night study session. "Half the students here are barely staying afloat financially. They just do not talk about it." Through Derek, I began connecting with other students navigating similar challenges. This community provided perspective that helped ease my resentment, though it flared anew whenever Natalie mentioned our parents sending her spending money or paying her credit card bills. My sophomore year brought an unexpected bright spot when I met Rachel Stevens during my shift at the computer help desk. She had come in with laptop issues, but stayed to discuss the ethics of artificial intelligence long after her computer was fixed. Intelligent, empathetic, and refreshingly straightforward, Rachel quickly became important to me in ways I had not anticipated. "You explain things like, they matter," she told me on our third date. "Not just the technical details, but the human implications. It is rare." As my personal life improved, Natalie's academic performance declined. By midterms of sophomore year, she was on academic probation, spending more time at sorority events than studying. Yet when she called home in tears about her grades, our parents responded with concern and support rather than the criticism I would have received. "College is an adjustment period," my mother told her soothingly. "Your social connections are important too. Those will help you in business more than perfect grades." The double standard was blatant. My achievements required no support because they were expected, while Natalie's failures warranted endless understanding because she was trying her best. Junior year marked a definitive turning point in my relationship with my family. After being selected for the prestigious Undergraduate Research Excellence Award for my work with Professor Bennett on machine learning algorithms, I invited my parents to the department ceremony. "That is the same weekend as Natalie's sorority parent event," my mother explained apologetically. "We already committed to that months ago." "This is a major achievement," I countered. "The department only selects 2 undergraduates per year." "We are very proud," my father assured me, "but we cannot disappoint Natalie. You understand." I did understand all too clearly. Their priorities had never been more evident. That evening, I broke down in Rachel's apartment, finally voicing the pain I had suppressed for years. "They have never seen me," I admitted, tears flowing freely. "Not really. I have been trying to earn their attention my entire life, and I am done." Rachel held me silently, then said words that would alter my perspective. "Maybe it is time to live for yourself completely, not for some recognition that may never come." That night I made a decision to emotionally separate my life from my family. I would maintain basic contact but stop seeking their approval or inclusion. I moved off campus with Derek to a small apartment that further reduced my expenses, limited my calls home to brief monthly check-ins, and channeled all my energy into building my future independently. Professor Bennett connected me with summer research opportunities. Rachel and her family included me in their holiday celebrations, and Derek became the brother I needed. This chosen family provided the support and recognition my biological one had withheld. By senior year, I had nearly forgotten how to need my parents. I had secured a competitive research fellowship, was writing a thesis on innovative applications of neural networks in predictive healthcare, and had qualified for summa cum laude graduation honors. When the department nominated me as the outstanding senior to speak at commencement, I hesitated before adding my parents to the invitation list. "They probably will not come," I told Rachel as we submitted the RSVP. "Maybe not," she agreed. "But this invitation is not about them anymore. It is about who you have become with or without their recognition." The first semester of junior year had begun with promising momentum. My research project on predictive algorithms for healthcare diagnostics was gaining attention beyond our university, with Professor Bennett encouraging me to submit our preliminary findings to several academic journals. The hours of coding, data analysis, and literature review were exhausting but fulfilling in ways that validated my passion for the field. Meanwhile, Natalie's academic situation had become increasingly precarious. After barely maintaining the minimum GPA required for her business program during sophomore year, she began skipping classes regularly to attend weekday sorority events and parties. By midterms, her academic advisor had placed her on formal probation, requiring weekly check-ins and monitored study hours. "It is so unfair," she complained during one of our increasingly rare campus meetups. "They act like business school is supposed to be our whole life. The networking I do at sorority events is just as important for my career." I bit back the observation that networking at themed fraternity parties at 2 in the morning seemed unlikely to advance her professional prospects. Despite everything, I still cared about my sister and recognized that she had been shaped by the same parental dynamics that had affected me, just from the opposite perspective. When the computer science department announced the annual Excellence in Undergraduate Research Award in November, Professor Bennett nominated my project without hesitation. "Your work bridges theoretical concepts and practical applications in ways most graduate students have not mastered," he explained. "The committee would be foolish not to recognize that." When the selection committee chose my project from among dozens of submissions, Professor Bennett was the first to congratulate me. "This is significant recognition, Justin," he emphasized. "Only 2 undergraduates receive this award each year. The ceremony is next month. Make sure your family knows the date." With uncharacteristic optimism, I called my parents that evening to share the news. "That is nice, honey," my mother responded distractedly. "Listen, can we call you back? We are just heading out the door to help Natalie prepare for her sorority's parent weekend event. She is in charge of the whole program this year." "Actually, that is part of why I am calling," I pressed on. "The award ceremony is on Saturday, December 12th. I would really like you both to come." A telling silence followed. "December 12th, my father finally responded. "That is the date of Natalie's parent weekend. She has been planning it for months. We cannot miss it. She's counting on us being there." "This award is really important," I tried explaining. "It could help with graduate school applications, and Professor Bennett says representatives from major tech companies attend the ceremony." "Justin," my mother interjected, "you have always been self-sufficient with these academic things. Natalie needs our support for her event. She has been struggling this semester, and this leadership opportunity is crucial for her confidence." "And my achievement is not worth your support?" I asked, my voice tightening. "That is not what we are saying," my father replied, his tone growing defensive. "You know we are proud of you, but you will win more awards, you always do. Natalie needs us right now." "I have needed you too," I said quietly, "for years." "You know that is not fair," my mother countered. "You have always been independent. Natalie is different. She needs more guidance and encouragement." The conversation continued in this circular pattern for several more minutes before I finally ended the call, a familiar hollow feeling expanding in my chest. Hours later, I sat in Rachel's small apartment, the facade of calm I had maintained finally crumbling. "I do not understand," I said, my voice breaking as tears I had held back for years finally escaped. "What would it take for them to see me, to think I am worth showing up for?" Rachel sat beside me on her worn sofa, her hand steady on my shoulder. "This is not about you being insufficient," she said firmly. "This is about their limitations, not yours." "I have spent my entire life trying to earn their attention," I admitted. "Working harder, achieving more, being completely self-reliant, because that is what they expected. And it has never been enough." "Then maybe it is time to stop trying," Rachel suggested gently. "You cannot change them, but you can change what you expect from them and how much power you give their approval over your happiness. That night marked a fundamental shift in my approach to family relationships. With Rachel's support and Professor Bennett's mentorship, I made the difficult decision to emotionally distance myself from my parents and sister. I would maintain basic contact but stop seeking their approval or inclusion in my life's significant moments. Within weeks, Derek and I found an affordable 2-bedroom apartment off campus, further reducing my expenses and creating physical distance to match the emotional boundaries I was establishing. I limited my calls home to brief monthly check-ins, focusing conversations on superficial updates rather than seeking recognition or support. The award ceremony arrived on that December Saturday. Professor Bennett sat in the audience alongside Rachel and Derek, their presence filling the void left by my absent family. When the department chair called my name, their genuine applause meant more than the polite recognition from strangers. "Your work exemplifies the innovative thinking we strive to foster in this department," the chair announced as he presented the certificate and research grant. "We expect great things from you, Mr. Campbell." At the reception afterward, Professor Bennett introduced me to colleagues and industry representatives, opening doors my parents had never imagined existed. One conversation with the research director from a major tech company led to a summer internship offer on the spot. "Your algorithm design shows remarkable insight," the director commented. "We need minds like yours tackling our most challenging problems." That evening, I received a text from Natalie. "Heard you won some big award. Congrats." No call came from my parents. The final breaking point arrived unexpectedly in February. After submitting my research to a national undergraduate conference, I received notification that my paper had been selected for presentation at their annual symposium, an honor typically reserved for graduate students. When I shared this news during my monthly call home, my father's response cut deeper than his absence ever had. "That is great. But did you hear Natalie finally pulled her GPA up to a B-? We are taking her on a cruise for spring break to celebrate her turnaround." The disparity was so blatant, so undeniable, that something inside me finally surrendered. I stopped expecting fairness or recognition. Instead of anger, I felt an odd sense of clarity and release. "I am happy for her," I replied calmly. "I need to go. I have a meeting with my thesis advisor." After ending the call, I blocked out 2 hours in my calendar and walked to Lake Lansing, watching winter sunlight glitter across the partially frozen surface. The pain had not disappeared, but its hold on me had fundamentally changed. I was no longer a child seeking parental approval. I was a young adult who had built a life on my own terms, surrounded by people who genuinely valued me. That realization freed me to focus entirely on my future. I applied to top graduate programs, completed my thesis on innovative AI applications for preventative healthcare, and qualified for summa cum laude graduation honors without once considering how my parents might react. When the department nominated me as the outstanding senior to speak at commencement, I hesitated only briefly before adding my parents to the invitation list. Their attendance no longer felt necessary for the moment to matter, but some small part of me still hoped they might finally see me clearly. "They probably will not come," I told Rachel as we submitted the RSVP. "Maybe not," she agreed. "But this invitation is not about them anymore. It is about who you have become with or without their recognition." With those words, I understood that the true breaking point had not been their failure, but my freedom from needing their validation. Whatever happened at graduation would not define me. I had already defined myself through every obstacle I had overcome. Senior year's final semester accelerated with alarming speed. January dissolved into February, which blurred into March. Then suddenly, April arrived with thesis deadlines, final exams, and graduation preparations converging in a chaotic rush. My days began before sunrise and often ended well after midnight, balanced between completing my honors, thesis-fulfilling research fellowship obligations, and preparing for graduate school interviews. My thesis on machine learning applications in predictive healthcare diagnostics had evolved from Professor Bennett's initial guidance into something that genuinely excited the department. "This work could actually change patient outcomes," he noted during our final review session. "You should be immensely proud." Pride was indeed what I felt, though it was a quieter, more self-contained emotion than I might once have imagined. The validation I had spent years seeking from my parents had been replaced by something more substantial: confidence in my own capabilities and recognition from people whose expertise I respected. 3 weeks before graduation, a thick envelope arrived containing my honors regalia, the distinctive gold stole and cords that symbolized summa cum laude achievement, along with the blue and silver cords representing the Computing Research Association's Outstanding Undergraduate Award. Holding these tangible symbols of my accomplishments, I experienced a moment of profound realization. These honors represented thousands of hours of work, countless all-nighters, and a resilience forged through necessity rather than choice. "Will you wear all of them?" Derek asked, watching me arrange the cords on my desk. "Every single one," I confirmed. "I earned them." The invitation to my parents had been sent weeks earlier, a formal card from the university, announcing that Justin Campbell has been selected as an honors speaker at the College of Engineering commencement ceremony. I had added a brief handwritten note. "It would mean a lot if you could attend." Their response came via a short text message from my mother. "We will be there. Natalie is excited to graduate too." The brevity and focus on Natalie was unsurprising but still stung. In 4 years, little had changed in their perspective despite everything I had accomplished. After a moment's disappointment, I set the phone aside and returned to finalizing my commencement speech. 5 days before graduation, I encountered an unexpected financial hurdle. The bursar's office emailed indicating a hold on my account due to an outstanding loan payment that needed processing before my diploma could be released. The timing could not have been worse. My final stipend check would not arrive until the following week. "I can help," Rachel offered immediately when I mentioned the situation. "My parents just sent graduation money early." "I cannot accept that," I insisted despite the temptation. "Consider it a loan then, with detailed repayment terms if that makes you feel better," she countered with a smile that gently mocked my stubborn independence. In the end, Professor Bennett solved the problem by expediting my final research fellowship payment through administrative channels I had not known existed. "Bureaucratic emergencies are part of academic life," he explained. "Consider this an early lesson in graduate school survival." The night before graduation, Rachel stayed late at my apartment, helping me press my dress shirt and organize my portfolio containing various Honor Society certificates that would be awarded during the ceremony. Derek had already left for his parents' hotel, where they had graciously invited me to join them for a celebration dinner after the ceremony. "Are you ready to see your parents tomorrow?" Rachel asked quietly as she adjusted my tie against the shirt collar. I considered the question carefully. "Yes, I think so. Not because anything has changed with them, but because I have changed. Their approval does not define me anymore." "I am so proud of you," she said, her eyes holding mine intently. "Not just for the academic stuff, but for how you have handled everything. You deserve to enjoy tomorrow completely." Sleep proved elusive that night. As memories from the past 4 years cycled through my mind, the late nights at the computer lab, the rigid budget calculations each month, the lonely holidays, but also the triumphs, friendships, and unexpected moments of joy. By dawn, I had reached a state of calm determination. Whatever happened with my family today, I would not allow it to diminish what I had accomplished. Graduation morning arrived with perfect May weather sunshine, warming the campus as thousands of students and families navigated the crowded pathways between ceremony venues. I dressed methodically in my apartment, carefully arranging each honor cord over my graduation gown. Rachel arrived early, bringing coffee and helping straighten my collar beneath the regalia. "You look distinguished," she teased, though her eyes conveyed sincere admiration. "Distinguished or not, I am definitely the most caffeinated graduate today," I replied, attempting to mask my nervousness with humor. We had arranged to meet my parents and Natalie at the engineering building an hour before the ceremony. As Rachel and I approached the designated meeting point, I spotted them immediately: my father in his standard navy blazer, my mother fussing with Natalie's graduation cap. They stood in a tight cluster, my mother taking photos of Natalie in her basic black gown, unadorned by any honor cords. Justin, my mother, called noticing us approaching. She offered a quick hug that felt more obligatory than warm. "We were just getting some pictures of Natalie before everything gets busy." My father glanced at my regalia, his eyebrows lifting slightly. That is quite a collection of chords you have there. Summa cum laude, and some research honors, I explained briefly, not elaborating on the years of work each symbol represented. Well, we should get a picture of both of you together, my mother suggested, already positioning her camera. The twins graduating on the same day, who would have thought? The comment stung with its implication that our simultaneous graduation was somehow surprising, as though she had expected me to fail or drop out along the way. After awkward photos and minimal conversation, I checked my watch. I need to join the honors graduates now. We line up separately. Oh, my mother said, seeming surprised. We thought we would all walk in together. Honors graduates process first, I explained. I will see you after the ceremony. Rachel can show you where we should meet. As I turned to leave, Natalie stepped forward impulsively. Good luck with your speech, she said, her expression suggesting she had only just realized the significance of my role in the ceremony. I nodded my thanks and headed toward the honors assembly area, feeling a curious detachment from the family tension I had just navigated. 4 years ago, their dismissal would have devastated me. Today, it barely registered against the backdrop of what I knew about myself and what I had achieved. Backstage, I joined other honors, graduates, and speakers, all of us adjusting regalia and reviewing notes. Through the curtained entrance to the auditorium, I could see families filing and filling rows of seats. Scanning the crowd, I spotted my parents and Natalie being seated in the family section, my mother already chatting animatedly with the parents beside her. They came to see Natalie graduate, I overheard her saying. She has worked so hard in the business program. We are just so proud. I stepped back from the curtain, taking a deep breath. Professor Bennett approached, straightening his faculty robe. Nervous about the speech, he asked. Not about the speech, I admitted. He nodded, understanding without further explanation. Remember, today is evidence of your journey, not theirs. Whatever happens out there, you have already succeeded by every meaningful measure. His words steadied me as the procession music began, and we lined up for the entrance. I squared my shoulders beneath the weight of my honors cords, ready to cross the stage, not for my parents' recognition, but for my own hard-earned moment of triumph. The processional music swelled through the auditorium as faculty marshals organized us into our entrance formation. Honors graduates led the procession, distinguished by our regalia from the hundreds of students who would follow. From my position near the front, I caught fragments of conversations around me, excited whispers, last-minute nervousness, the collective energy of culmination. Remember to walk slowly and pause for photos, a faculty marshal instructed as the massive auditorium doors swung open. We proceeded down the center aisle with measured steps, the audience rising as we entered. I kept my gaze forward, resisting the urge to scan the crowd for my parents. This moment belonged to me regardless of their reaction. The stage looked impossibly large from the approaching procession, adorned with the university's colors, and filled with distinguished faculty in their academic regalia. Dean Thompson stood at the podium, his expression solemn yet pleased as he watched us enter. Once seated in the front rows reserved for honors students, I had a clear view of the main seating area. Despite my resolution not to look, my eyes found my parents automatically, my father checking his watch, my mother adjusting her cardigan, both looking politely attentive, but not particularly moved. They had positioned themselves perfectly to view Natalie's entrance with the business school graduates who would process after us. Dean Thompson approached the microphone after all graduates were seated. Welcome, families and friends, to the spring commencement ceremony for Michigan State University's class of 2024. Today we celebrate not just the completion of academic requirements, but the transformation of students into scholars, thinkers, and future leaders. His opening remarks covered the expected territory. Congratulations, acknowledgement of family sacrifices, reference to the university's mission and values. Then his tone shifted slightly. Before we begin the conferral of degrees, I would like to recognize our honors graduates and special award recipients. These students represent the highest achievements within our academic community. A screen behind him illuminated with the honors list my name among them. We are particularly privileged today to hear from our outstanding senior award recipient, who will address the graduating class shortly. This honor goes to a student who has demonstrated exceptional academic achievement, research contributions, and leadership within their field. I felt a subtle shift in the audience's attention as the dean continued. This year's recipient maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA while completing dual research fellowships, publishing 3 peer-reviewed papers, and working 20 hours weekly to finance his own education. Please join me in recognizing Justin Campbell. The applause was polite but impersonal. I was a stranger to most of these families. From my seat, I could see my parents' expressions shift from polite attention to visible surprise as they processed what they were hearing. My mother leaned toward my father, whispering something as her eyes widened. After several more introductions, Dean Thompson called the first group of honors graduates to the stage. First, I invite our summa cum laude graduates to rise and approach the stage as your names are called. Standing with my cohort, I adjusted my honors stole one final time. When the announcer called Justin Campbell, summa cum laude College of Engineering Outstanding Senior Recipient of the National Computing Research Award, I walked across the stage with measured steps. Dean Thompson shook my hand firmly. "Exceptional work, Mr. Campbell," he said, loud enough for the front rows to hear. "Your thesis advisor tells me you've already been accepted to MIT's doctoral program with full funding." The audience applauded again as I accepted my symbolic diploma cover. From this elevated position, I had a perfect view of my parents. Their expressions had transformed completely: shock, confusion, and something that looked almost like dawning regret etched across their features. My mother's hand covered her mouth while my father sat unnaturally straight, his usual confidence visibly shaken. After returning to my seat, I was called back to the podium for my commencement address. Standing before the microphone, notes in hand, I looked out across the sea of graduates and families. 4 years ago, many of us arrived on this campus with different advantages, challenges, and expectations. I began. Some came with generations of family support behind them. Others, like myself, navigated this journey largely on our own. I continued with carefully chosen words that neither accused nor apologized. What I learned during my time here extends far beyond algorithms and programming languages. I learned that true achievement is not measured by external validation, but by the obstacles we overcome and the resilience we develop in the process. Throughout my 5-minute address, I spoke about self-reliance, finding mentors who recognize potential, and creating success regardless of circumstances. Without direct reference to my personal situation, I acknowledged the reality many students faced. Some of us worked night shifts before morning classes. Some balanced multiple jobs with research obligations. We did what was necessary not just to survive, but to excel. As I concluded, I allowed myself one moment of unplanned honesty. To those who supported me, my professors, friends, and mentors who saw value in my potential when others did not, you have my deepest gratitude. You taught me that family can sometimes be found in unexpected places. Returning to my seat amid appreciative applause, I caught Professor Bennett's approving nod from the faculty section. The remainder of the ceremony proceeded with the methodical rhythm of hundreds of names being called, handshakes exchanged, and degrees conferred. When Natalie crossed the stage an hour later, I applauded sincerely. Despite everything, I did not blame her for our parents' choices. She had simply accepted the role they had created for her, just as I had adapted to mine. After the ceremonial turning of tassels and recessional graduates and families flooded into the reception areas, I found Rachel waiting at our designated meeting, spot her smile providing immediate comfort amidst the chaos. "Your speech was perfect," she said, squeezing my hand. We were joined minutes later by Professor Bennett, who clapped my shoulder proudly. "Understated but powerful," he commented. "Just like your research style." My parents approached hesitantly, trailing behind Natalie. The confident authority they had always projected seemed diminished, somehow replaced by an uncharacteristic uncertainty. "Congratulations," my father offered, extending his hand formally, as though meeting a colleague rather than embracing his son. "Your speech was lovely," my mother added, her voice carrying a tremor I had never heard before. "We had no idea you were receiving so many honors." "I sent emails about each award," I replied evenly, "and mentioned them during our calls." An uncomfortable silence followed, broken when Professor Bennett stepped forward and introduced himself. "I have had the privilege of mentoring Justin for the past 3 years," he explained. "His research contributions have been extraordinary, graduate-level work from his sophomore year onward. MIT is quite fortunate to have recruited him for their doctoral program. My parents' expressions shifted further as Professor Bennett continued describing my academic accomplishments in detail, using technical terminology they did not fully understand, but clearly recognized as significant. And all while working 20 hours weekly, he concluded. Most students would have struggled to maintain passing grades with his schedule, let alone excel as he has. We did not realize. My father began, then stopped, seeming unsure how to continue. Justin never complained, my mother added defensively. He always seemed fine handling things on his own. Because I had no choice. I replied, my tone matter of fact rather than accusatory. Rachel gently changed the subject, suggesting we move to the engineering building for the department reception. As we walked across campus, Natalie fell into step beside me, separated slightly from our parents. I never knew you were doing all that, she said quietly. They never talked about your research or awards at home. I know, I replied simply. The department reception brought further revelations as my parents circulated through a room where seemingly everyone knew and respected me. Faculty members approached to discuss my research, fellow students referenced projects we had collaborated on, and department staff greeted me by name. In this environment, I was not the self-sufficient, invisible son, but a valued member of an academic community. During dinner at a restaurant my parents had selected, the conversation remained strained. My father attempted an awkward reconciliation between the main course and dessert. We always knew you were smart, he offered. We just thought you did not need the same support Natalie did. Every child needs support, I responded. Even the ones who find ways to succeed without it. My mother dabbed at unexpected tears. We made assumptions about what you needed. I see now that we were wrong. Their recognition came 4 years and thousands of dollars in student loans too late, but it was recognition nonetheless. I accepted it with the same calm detachment I had developed toward their approval, acknowledging it without needing it. I would like to meet Rachel's family before they leave tomorrow, I said, changing the subject. They invited me to stay with them for a week before I start my summer research position. The implication was clear. I had found family support elsewhere. My parents nodded understanding, passing briefly across their faces as we finished the meal in contemplative silence. The week following graduation passed in a whirlwind of packing paperwork and preparations for my move to MIT. My small apartment, once shared with Derek, was now half empty as I sorted through 4 years of accumulated possessions. Rachel helped organize books and research materials, while I disposed of furniture too worn to be worth transporting. You travel light for someone who has accomplished so much, she observed, sealing a box containing all my academic awards and honors. Necessity becomes habit, I replied, remembering years of careful budgeting and minimal purchases. 3 days after graduation, while Rachel was at work, an unexpected knock interrupted my packing. Opening the door revealed my parents standing awkwardly in the hallway, looking out of place in the modest student apartment building. We were hoping to talk, my father said, his usual authoritative tone replaced by something approaching humility. If you have time. I invited them in, clearing textbooks from the couch to create seating. My mother glanced around the apartment, taking in the mismatched furniture, the desk I had assembled from second-hand parts, the careful organization that had allowed me to maximize limited space. You have really made this work, she commented softly. I did what was necessary, I replied. Neither proud nor resentful, simply stating fact. My father cleared his throat. Justin, we owe you an apology. A significant one. The directness surprised me. Throughout my childhood and college years, my parents had never acknowledged their differential treatment, much less apologized for it. At graduation, seeing you receive those honors, hearing about your research and work ethic from your professors, it forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths, he continued. We made assumptions about you that were unfair and frankly damaging. My mother nodded, uncharacteristic tears forming. We told ourselves that you were fine because you always managed, that Natalie needed more support because she struggled. But we never considered that you managed because you had to, not because it was easy. Or that Natalie might have developed more independence if we had expected it from her, my father added. Their words acknowledged what I had felt for years but had never heard them recognize. The validation was surprisingly powerful even now when I had learned to live without it. "Why now?" I asked. "What changed?" "Seeing you on that stage," my mother answered. "Hearing all you had accomplished, despite our failure to support you. It was like suddenly seeing a stranger where our son should have been a successful, accomplished stranger we had somehow missed knowing. And afterward, my father continued, watching how your professors and peers respected you, hearing them discuss research we did not even know you were conducting. We realized how little we knew about your life and achievements." My mother reached for her purse, removing an envelope. "This cannot undo the past 4 years, but we want you to start your graduate program without the burden of undergraduate loans." Inside the envelope was a cashier's check covering the exact amount of my student loan debt, a sum they must have investigated through the financial aid office. My initial reaction was to refuse to maintain the independence I had fought so hard to establish. But Rachel's voice echoed in my mind from a recent conversation. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. It means allowing for the possibility of something new. "Thank you," I said, finally accepting the envelope. "This will make a significant difference for my graduate studies. We also want to know if you would be willing to try rebuilding our relationship," my father said, "not erasing the past, but moving forward with a better understanding." The request required careful consideration. Years of dismissal and differential treatment could not be undone with a single conversation or financial gesture. "I am willing to try," I answered honestly. "But it will take time, and things will never be exactly as they might have been if these past years had been different." "We understand," my mother assured me. "We just want the chance to know the person you have become." That conversation marked the beginning of a slow, sometimes awkward healing process. As I settled into my doctoral program at MIT, our relationship evolved into something different from either the dismissive dynamic of my youth or the complete separation I had enforced during college. We established monthly video calls where they asked about my research with genuine interest. I shared aspects of my work in accessible terms, finding unexpected satisfaction in translating complex concepts for them. They listened attentively, asking questions that revealed their desire to understand not just my accomplishments but my passion for the field. Rachel visited frequently during my first semester, eventually transferring to a Boston-area graduate program herself. Her presence in my life provided both emotional grounding and perspective as I navigated the evolving family dynamic. Natalie and I developed a different kind of relationship as well. Free from the competitive dynamic our parents had inadvertently fostered, we discovered common ground as young adults finding our paths. Her post-graduation struggles in the job market had humbled her, creating space for a more balanced connection between us. "I always thought you had it easier," she admitted during a rare one-on-one call. "Being able to do everything on your own, never needing help. I never realized that was because you were not given a choice." 3 years later, as I completed my doctoral research, my parents sat in the audience at my PhD graduation ceremony. Their pride seemed genuine, now born from understanding rather than obligation. When the department chair described my dissertation as groundbreaking work in predictive healthcare algorithms, I caught my father leaning forward to hear every word, my mother wiping tears of actual pride rather than social performance. The photographs from that day show a family still in progress, smiles that carry hints of past tension, but also genuine connection. We would never have the simple, uncomplicated relationship that might have been possible without those years of inequality. But we had built something new, a relationship between adults who recognized both past failures and present possibilities. The most profound lesson from my journey was not about academic achievement or even self-reliance, but about defining success and worth independently from external validation. My parents' belated recognition did not complete me or heal all wounds, but it did allow me to integrate my past and present into a cohesive narrative of growth. I now lead my own research team at a leading tech company, developing the healthcare applications I first explored as an undergraduate. Rachel and I are engaged, planning a future that incorporates the family we choose alongside the family we were born into. Our relationships with my parents continue to evolve, imperfect but intentional. The wounds of differential treatment and years of dismissal have not disappeared entirely. They have transformed into a kind of wisdom, an understanding that our worth is inherent rather than earned, and that true success lies in integrity to our own values rather than others' recognition. What would your relationship with your family look like today if they had failed to support you when you needed it most? Would you find it in your heart to forgive, or would you choose to build a life entirely separate from them? Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family challenges and finding strength in unexpected places. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes our greatest growth comes from our deepest wounds.